Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, the podcast mogul himself, Phil Better. And today I am very, very excited to tell you about my special guest, someone who spins yards for or spins tales for a living, or helps entrepreneurs at least spin tales to help them increase their sales. Yes, that I'm talking about storytelling with Josh. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name, from Storytale Studio. I should have asked before we started. It just slipped my mind. But hi, Josh. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, Phil. I'm very good. And it's Josh Tregenza.
Tregenza. Okay, there we go.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's always the fun thing, because storytelling can come from like someone's last name and like not even like knowing what it is. And like, if you don't know a story, like start with your last name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm one of the co-founders at Storytale Studio. We're a design studio here in Australia that really wraps things up around stories. We're narrative driven, which means that we get to the heart of things. We go deeper down with our clients, our businesses, to find out their story and how best to tell that story to the audience that they're trying to get in touch with. So we work with that. We've been doing this for 18 months now. So I'm recently a digital entrepreneur, but I've been a designer and developer for about 15 years now. And in between all of that, I've been a digital entrepreneur and starting businesses in film, photography, and even digital magazines.
Well, you're an expert in all fields, but I love it. All dealing with storytelling, because all of those deal with that. So Josh, how did you get started? What is it about storytelling that or stories that wanted you to help other people tell stories?
So coming from a design background, a lot of the times where you're spending time asking people questions, finding things out about themselves, trying to understand them a bit more. Most of the time when people are asking for design, they're like, "Oh, I want this." And what they're actually asking for is something completely different. And so part of the job is to find out, well, what are you actually after? And that usually comes from finding out their own stories. So throughout my life, I've done a lot of these things around storytelling. I used to act in high school. It's all been wrapped around stories. And my co-founder and I, we actually realized this whilst playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Jeez, if that's not a huge sign, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I had never done it before. He'd been doing it for years, and he was the dungeon master for us, and I started to understand with him that sort of power of improvisational storytelling with him. That most of the time the name master's in it, so you
Yeah.
think he's the controller of the world, but there was like this spark that I realized, like, no, I'm in control of this story just as much as you are. And we're telling this together with, you and I and like the 4 other people at the table. And so we actually started to get into that. And like years later, now since we worked together, and then we went off and we came back and we're like, something's not right. What we're doing, it's just not fitting right with what we're doing on our own.
Mhm.
And it's because we weren't telling stories together. And so we really went all in on that. I mean, we care about storytelling so much. We called our studio Stories
Storyteller.
Twice. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's how I started out, and like everything comes back to it. And it's we have, and I don't have it up behind me, but we have a poster which is like, where's the story? Just find out where's the story, and we just use that to keep asking each other like where that is, and we ask that of our clients as well. Where's the story? Like find that out, because if you can, it starts opening doors for you a lot easier.
I love that.
I didn't even ask for a tip, and we're already getting gold from Josh here. And he's like, I'm still new at this. No, 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 dude. You're an old hat at this because you're a master at telling stories. I'm pretty sure you can find a story in a story in a haystack. Were you
Oh,
always?
I got 1,000 about haystacks.
I'm pretty sure you do.
That's the bread and butter. Bread
Yeah.
and butter of storytelling's in haystacks.
Um, when you have you always doing entrepreneurial things through your life, like when you were younger, you're probably still young, but like in your youth, like were you always looking for like a side hustle, or was this something that you just said, F it, we're gonna go all in on doing storytelling?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was, it would have been 18, so just out of school. I was doing university.
Mhm.
I was doing accounting at the
Sounds
time.
entertaining. Very, very, very storytelling accounting with numbers though.
Abs- yeah. Oh well, listen. When you get to that point of like, well, why is this here? Like, let's circle back to this and like find out where that is. That as much as accounting is what it is, it's fun problem solving.
Mhm.
So I'll give it that. But I I didn't really find a lot of excitement at university. So I started an on hold messaging company. It was called It's a Joke on Hold, and that whole premise was, while you waited, instead of having like the girl from Ipanema playing on the other end of the phone, you would have comedians doing stand-up comedy, and so you would listen to that.
Oh my god, that's genius.
It was a lot of fun. So we had all like we got all the licensing together for it, and we had a lot of comedians on there. Um, and we started that. It didn't go through because I was 18 at the time. I was starting to, just trying to find my footing in the world,
Yeah.
and things happen. Um, things happen, and you're 18. Drinking age in Australia is 18, so two and two together.
A lot more was spent drinking than working, let's just say.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But no, so I've been doing that. So I've always tried to. I really love working with a team of people. Any of my managers and bosses that I've had have been great. And what they have given me across my journey has been absolutely amazing. But saying that, um, a lot of the time it's come down to like, well, what do I want? I want to uh, be able to say no. I think is such a huge thing when you are doing it for yourself. Is you get to say no a lot easier. You're in control, and you get to control your own stress, and you accept a lot of that. I've worked in agency life. I've worked in startup life, and a lot of that is very high pace, high strung sort of work. And so the storytelling aside, like there's a natural amount of stress that comes from the work that we do day in day out. And is it you come to that point of like, well, did I choose this or was it chosen for me? And when you're doing it for yourself, when you're becoming that you're following that entrepreneurial lifestyle, you've chosen that, and it starts changing things. What was usually a stressful thing has a large amount of energy to it, that uh, it comes from self choice.
I love it. No, that is true. It's a different level of stress, but it's a welcome stress
Mm,
because it's like this is the stress I'm choosing. I know I'm gonna have stress, so if I and you learned how to plan for the stress because it's
mm,
like I know if I don't make this, if I don't get the money at the end of the month, I can't pay my rent. So I have a
mm,
deadline. I need to make money. I have to do it. So you put in the work. It's a stress that you have, but it's a stress that you know you can avoid by going out and getting three more clients. And you're like, rent's paid for 3 months. I can not worry about that stress, you know? And
mm,
so it's it's versus being an employee where you're like, I don't know what I have to do to not make them happy.
mm. Yeah, it all comes down to like I just don't know. I don't know what, because that's a thing that a lot of our clients have is like with their internal teams. It's like the people in their businesses don't know the story. like they haven't, and they're not telling the same one as the owners, as the founders. So that's like there's that disconnect. So if you are doing that, like, well, I don't know what I'm just doing it for a paycheck, I guess, at the end of the
Yeah.
day. I don't know. I would like it to be more, but I just don't know how. And like, well, if I want to get seed funding, what's seed funding to me? Like, but what's the actual story within it? So that's some of the work that we do with our clients comes from that of like people have to work for you at the end of the day. Um, so like make sure that they are just as excited as you are when you're like in this position where you're starting out, or you're on your own for long stretches of time. You've got to have that thing that you're choosing this stress and you're feeling invigorated by that, because it's your choice, and it should be as close to the same thing as the people in your team. They don't have the same liabilities,
Mhm.
but they've got the same accountability to the telling of the story.
Oh, I like that. Getting the people, like, they may not be 100% dealing with the risk, but they know that if they help out, like, everyone wins.
Mm,
I love that. Getting that story.
yeah.
I think that's what's missing in most corporate businesses, because the further away you are from the CEO and the board, the less of the story you hear, or the at least the goals. Whereas
Mm,
with, like, at least these small entrepreneurs like yourself, small little quote unquote mom and pops, they're able to share that story faster and easier, like with your help,
mm,
create that story, and so they can make that story, so when they start growing into the future mega corporations that have billions, hundreds of people working with them, their story is already going through the whole process, so everybody can be involved in. And I think that's what this generation is missing. I would say, like, the younger generations, I would say, they want to feel attached. It's not just a paycheck, they want to be valued, so they want to be part of the story.
mm.
So
Yeah.
you're helping doing
No,
that.
absolutely.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, it's it needs to like you said, like, it's those younger generations, they want that, but everyone wants that at the end of the day.
Mhm.
We're just not knowing that we can ask for those things. And, like, I've been very much when I've worked in businesses, um, I manage up, so, like, setting those expectations, like, I wanna know more about these things. I wanna know more and more, because I've been in those positions of people. I've been in those stresses, um, and that's things that, like, people are expecting. They may not know how to ask that, but that's what they're expecting, and that's what we should be as, as owners, as founders, should be bringing them on board with, because it's not just the customers who can be your champions, but it's probably gonna be the people inside as well.
Mhm.
If you can get them on board, like, they're gonna help you run marathons upon marathons.
It's true. They'll go to bat for you time and time again when they're invested in
Mm,
it, and having that great story structure. Oh my God. More gold. More gold from Josh from Storytelling Studios. Josh, I'm wondering, because you are relatively new into the full-on digital entrepreneurship
mm,
of running your own business, or studio has it. Do you have a tip for those people who are kind of on the fence? Maybe it's a tip using using your story to help get you a client, like their story, or a tip just to get started in this entrepreneurial world of ours that we're seeing a boom in. Do you have any kind of
mm.
tip for them?
So I think one of the things, so here in Australia, we have a thing called tall poppy syndrome. And that's like the concept of like you're the tallest poppy in the field, and you're gonna get clipped, because you stand out.
Mhm.
So Australians have this thing where they don't wanna get too tall, and they don't want to, talk about themselves a lot, otherwise they're gonna get clipped. Um, and that, sucks. It really does. We were on a panel about it, talking about it. It's come up so often, when we're being asked to speak about things. And at the end of the day now, and this comes from Australia, but also it can be taken globally, it's starting to tell your story, just starting. So you don't have to jump in the whole way, but at least start talking about it. Um, and talk about it with a lot of people. Ask to go for coffee with others. You need to start saying it so it's normalized to you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be in this, you're going to be the one telling the story. So you need to get used to that. So when that happens, you're going to be on that fence and people want to help. I believe that people as a whole are generally good and they want to help out other people. Steve Jobs said, there's the difference between the dreamers and the doers, and the doers are the ones who are asking for help. And that's so true with a lot, almost everything. Starting with what your story is, even if you don't know it, go, I've got this idea. Can I run this by you? Can we have I'll buy you a coffee and I've just got this idea, something that I've been thinking about. I don't know what's going on. I wonder if you could help me out. Doesn't matter who they are. You're going to get something out of that you can then go, oh, okay. And if they don't have anything, ask them if they know someone who does. That's really guerrilla networking, because you're getting an introduction with people, which is like, at the end of the day, that's such an important thing that you need as a business in any capacity, is to getting working those muscles. So much like any good story, start at the beginning and just you're not going to be you're not going to be a fool for asking. If you come from a place of curiosity, people are going to come from a place of understanding. Your next door neighbor isn't going to be Shark Tank, or I think it's Shark Tank over there.
It's we have the Shark Tank, but we also have I think it's the Lions Den. Is it the Lions Den?
Lions and Dragons Den?
Dragon's Den. Sorry, so in Canada we have Dragon's Den, but we also get the US version, which is Shark Tank. So we have the Dragon's Den here. So two of the original dragons from Canada started Shark Tank in the US, Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary. So So going back to your story,
yeah. So they're not. No one's going to be like, and I like dragons a lot more because you can kind of stay away from sharks. You can get out of the water.
Not dragons, if you're in Australia, really they're everywhere.
Well, Australian sharks, as everyone knows, they have legs. You see them down the street. You've got to jump in your kangaroo because they're the only ones who can jump far enough for them.
Stereotypical comedy. It's great because I have the Canadian stereotypes. It's ice outside, and I live in an igloo, so I have a very nice igloo. Right? It's so nice.
It's the work you've done is great. You've been I've got a Canadian stepfather. He's from Toronto.
Oh, is he from Toronto? Ask him what part of Toronto he's from. If he doesn't say
maybe Ontario.
So no, Ontario is fine. No, there's a thing with Canadians. So people who say they're from Toronto only say they're from Toronto because people don't know the smaller towns just around that surround Toronto. So it's like Yorkdale or Markham or something like that. So I'm from Markham, and it's like, wow, you're in a small town. I've never heard of that because Canadian towns are all small. So like I don't say I'm from I say I'm from Montreal. I'm not originally from Montreal. I'm from a small town north of Montreal called Lorraine. So if I say I'm from Lorraine, people are going to be like, where's that? So it's easier to say I'm from Montreal.
It's those it's the stereotype. It's those tropes that you kind of just fall back. It's like these shorthands.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's a lot easier. It's so much easier. Just like, listen, this is going to get me through the story. I don't need to talk about Lorraine. That's not
I'm from Montreal. There we go. Yeah. I'm Montreal. I'm from Montreal. Grew up in Montreal. There let's continue.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no Canada like French Canada. Yeah. Oh, I understand. Yes.
But yeah, so where were we? We were completely
dragons.
Yes, dragons. Thank you.
Talking about dragons.
Yes.
So the large amount of people that you're going to be speaking with are not dragons. They're not going to breathe down your neck. They're not going to bite you. They're going to want to help you. There's very rare instances that someone's going to call you out and tell you're an idiot. And if they do, let's hope that they are saying that in a very kind way that is very respectful to you. because you know them well enough that if they're doing that, they're looking out for your best interests. But the majority of people aren't going to do that. They're going to want to help because this is something that I'm going to assume you're passionate in, and that you want to become a reality. And they're going to want that of you as well. They want your story to come to fruition, um, because that's going to help their story as well. We all, a rising shore raises all boats. I believe that's the phrase.
I always get mixed up with that saying, like
Yeah.
a rising tide. It's a rising tide, or incoming tide rises all ships, or something like a rising
All
tide
ships.
rises
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
ships. Something. So look, if you help someone, everybody wins. It's pretty much what we're
Yes.
trying to say. I'm going to look up that saying.
I love metaphors and I love doing it, but you get caught in all of them, and it's like, yeah, the rising tide catches the early worm. That's not right.
It's a rising tide lifts all boats. That's the saying.
There we go.
There we go. Google to the rescue. No, it's true. When you help someone, it comes back to you tenfold, and helping it's so important. Because that's the only way we're gonna work. Because it's a tough market. It's tough world out there. So if businesses can help businesses grow, why not? You're helping me grow. I'm helping you grow. Like, it's just fair. And I think that's a great way to say it, is just start telling your story. Just start telling people like, hey, I'm starting this, or I'm doing that.
Yeah, start telling it and be authentic. I think that's a little bit of a tip for people, is be authentic with it, because a lot of the time people say about like stories are like, oh, you're just spinning yarns, you're telling tales, you're lying, and that's not like, if you're telling a lie, if you're not being authentic or truthful in your story, you're going to get called out. It's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow, but eventually it will happen. And if we look at recent news in a lot of financial service or financial service adjacent businesses, it can go down really, really bad. And you'll lose out, and a lot of other people will as well.
Yeah.
So it's really important to like be authentic with your story. Like, it's not a secret. It's a story.
You're sharing. It's like, I think I saw something. The minute you share your skeletons is the minute you're free, because there's nothing to hide behind. So if you're being authentic with your story about what you want, look, I'm very open with the fact that this podcast is usually used as a lead generator, because most of the guests who come on want to have a podcast but don't know how. And so I get them on to the podcast, and I explain this is like they have a great time on the podcast. I hope they have a great time. Josh, are you having a great time on the show?
I'm having a great time.
There we go.
Yeah.
So normally they have a great time.
You didn't even need to fish for it. It was coming organically.
Yes. So have a great time. And then afterwards, I'm like, hey, do you want to learn how to use a podcast to boost your business? So if they say no, it's okay, because I still have this great content. And I'm open about how when I started this podcast, I wanted to learn about entrepreneurship. So I asked a whole bunch of people who were further along with me, and they were more than gracious to come on the podcast. Like, I use my podcast to learn, and it helps hundreds of people, because businesses get to come on and promote themselves. Like, I have Josh telling how important storytelling is. And I'm very sure when he shares this, someone on this who's listening is going to be like, wait, Phil teaches people to launch podcasts? I'm going to go check out Phil. Or they're going to listen to my other episodes and find a business that they're like, oh, wait, I need that. And they enjoy the conversation from that. You're lifting everybody up. It's amazing.
The rising tide.
There we go. We're bringing it all back to the rising tide. Lifts all shifts. We're coming to the end. I hate this because you're leaving, and I don't like that, because I'm having a great time, Josh. I love
Phil, what we've shared here today, that's never going to leave us. We've created a story here that we're going to be able to tell afterwards.
Yeah.
And hopefully the audience listening are going to have stories that they can tell as well. So this is how we stay together always.
Oh my God, I'm touched. I guys, if you're not going to hire Josh to do your story after that, I don't. You got a problem because he can 10x your probably 1,000x your business with that, with his knowledge on storytelling. But I want to know.
Only 1,000x? Oh,
Look,
we
I
can do
started
we
at
can do
10.
that. We can talk. Everyone,
can
we can
talk?
we can talk.
You can
Yeah,
do a
we can
million. You can hit a million x of business.
Hey, let's moonshot it. Like, yeah,
Love it. Oh my
just
god.
grab the moon. Just go for it.
Josh, what has been your favorite memory so far, or a moment in your journey as an entrepreneur? It can be a memory or a moment that you really, it was just like, yeah, this is why I chose this life, regardless of all the hardships. When you're hitting that hard point where you're like, F this, man, I'm going back to being an employee because it's so much easier.
Mm.
But this is what you remember to pull you through those dark times.
Oh, okay. This is a good one. So, what was my favorite? My favorite time. So we've had a client with us. They are an an ethical AI voice acting place, and they brought us on to not only help, like to literally help with their story by doing script writing. And there was this moment that I was writing it was a pirate story. So I was writing a bunch of different things and putting them into the AI model, and it was piping out some voice acting for me. And I thought, this is like, I could be doing 1,000 different things. I could be working for someone else, but this stuff, this sort of opportunity, like this month I'm going to be doing this. The next month I'm going to be working on someone's like logo and the whole branding ecosystem. And I found myself there listening to Yarmy Hearty. Yeah. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is something that I would not have been able to get um, without a long journey for it. But from where I am, being an entrepreneur, running this studio, that's the part that I'm able to seize and take an opportunity in. And it just came from talking about stuff, being true to myself, being authentic. And it's just like, yeah, it pays off. It pays off. And like I was saying earlier on, like I chose this, and this, throughout all the stresses and strains, the hardships, the lowlights and the highlights, this is the thing I did. And I get to do these things that like are fun. Like,
And
and
that
like
not a lot of
I
people
think
are doing.
no, absolutely not. And I think the same thing could be said for yourself. I hope doing the podcast right here with me right now. It's just those opportunities that you have. Like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm doing this for a living, and I'm making my world so much richer for it.
I love it. That's awesome. That's something special to have, like having those moments. That's why I always like asking that question, because it gets
Mm.
such great responses like yours. With the last question, because we're coming up to the end here, it's Spark by Seek Discomfort. You guys know how much I love Yes Theory's premise about pushing yourself, seeking the discomfort in life. It's one of my pleasures in life, and one of my goals is always to be seeking that discomfort. This is a question which I think is interesting, because you're probably going to be able to tell a great story with it. But has a stranger ever made an impact on your life?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. So, um, they there is this man. So they were stranger up until the point. So I was on a trip to America, to Lake Tahoe. I was going there for a bit of skiing, which I really like skiing. You don't get a lot of it in Australia.
Really? I wonder
Yeah,
why. You're like right by the
yeah,
South Pole. You can go to the South Pole and ski. There's some mountains there, some glaciers.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump
Good job.
over.
Yeah, right? It's just like us Canadians to the
Yeah,
North Pole. It's very close.
yeah. Yeah, there's polar bears on both, right? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
So, I was at this trip, and there was a speaker, Dan Mall. Now, anyone in the design ecosystem should probably know Dan Mall. If you don't, find him, find all of his stuff. He does great things. But he was talking about teaching people and mentoring others. And um, I came up to him after he gave a panel talk, and we were talking about how to mentor others, how to give back, how to like all these things about how to become a leader. At the time, I never had worked with a team. I was usually a solo person within companies. So I talked to him. I was like, I don't think that I can do. Um, I don't know where to start with any of this. And he said, all you need to do to be a mentor, to teach someone, is know one thing more than them. Start with that, and then you can teach that person that, and then you can start with it. It's just one more, just one little thing more than them. And that was the thing that really opened my eyes to how better to teach others, to mentor. Um, and it kind of just it broke down that boundary of, you have to be like this stalwart person of such knowledge and esteem to help another person out. I was like, no, just a little bit, and you can go through. So Dan Moore said that to me. Didn't know him. And then afterwards I found out all of this stuff about him, and I was like, wow, okay, just it's very cool for this. But like at the end of the day, him telling me that little part um, really opened up a um, lot of opportunities, and a lot of, not only for myself but with others as well. So now that I'm able to see others mentoring others, and how that all flows down, and the stories that they're creating um, for themselves, for their own families, for their own people. It's great to see. So that was the greatest bit of advice that a stranger had given me.
Damn. I always love ending with the spark question because it gives us golden like stories like that, or uh, how imagine where your life would be if you didn't get that
Mm,
advice, and or didn't even learn about this man that changed your life, a stranger changing your life. I love
mm.
it. Um, Josh, we're at the end of the episode. This is your time to shine. I know you've been talking a lot. I'm asking you for a bit longer. I'm going to jump off the screen. Let my audience know where they can follow and support you guys over at Storytale Studio, and all that. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Amazing. So, everyone, like Phil said, I'm part of Storytale Studio. You can find us at storytale.studio. You can find us there. You can find us across Instagram, LinkedIn. Um, find us all throughout there. My name is Josh Tregenza. I'm one of like the 4 Josh Tregenzas in the world. So find the one that doesn't do electrical engineering, and you found me. Uh, but I think where we're going to find each other is when you are telling your own story. Um, those things will open up doors for you, and hopefully will open up doors where we meet each other.
Josh, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show, and sharing your story of entrepreneurship and how
Mm.
important it is to other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me, Phil. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. It's
I,
a great way to start my day.
I'm ending my day. You're starting your day. I love it. Guys, please go support Josh. His links are in the show notes down below. Check out Storytale Studio. I keep saying Storytelling Studio. It's Storytale Studio at the website. It's a
You're
really
gonna have to
neat.
pick up that domain.
Yeah, you're gonna have to because of this episode. Their website is really ingenious and different, and it's really cool. At first, I was a little confused by it because it was like it's not working like a traditional website. So just FYI, it's not like a traditional website, but it's so cool. Josh, thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Again, the audience, remember to always invest in yourself.